Hello friends and welcome to the Cold War Prepper. My name is Lee. Listen, the world's falling apart as we turn around. I mean, all kinds of stuff going on, just something else. And something's going to be happening in the very near future. I don't know what, and I'm not going to be a scaremonger. I want to talk about what we can do about it. If you think you're going to be a lone wolf, I would like for you to reassess that because you're not going to survive too long. Who's going to protect your stuff while you're out gathering firewood, water, food, whatever? Who's going to guard your site while you're asleep? I don't think the lone wolves are going to make it. It's going to be a community effort of people working together to survive. And so as you get more and more people together, it's going to be really good if all of you have some commonality and uniformity in equipment, ideas, methodologies, and things like that. So that's what I want to talk about is uniformity and commonality. So first thing you think of when we say uniform is, BDUs or ACUs or desert camis or tiger stripes or something like that. That does not have to be the case. You don't have to send everybody down to Cabela's and get mossy oak camouflage. It can be very simple things. The Texas Rangers use a white hat and a white shirt. Either blue jeans or black pants. That's a Texas Ranger. You know who it is. Then you've got, in the current conflict that's going on in Europe, remember that they both belong to the same alliance up until about 1992. So they all had commonality of equipment and commonality of uniforms. So if everybody's got the same equipment, the same uniform, it's difficult to tell who's who unless you do something else. So something very simple that they do. Now, one country has a blue and gold flag. The other country has a blue, red, and white flag. So blue's out of the question. You don't want to use blue. This country, they take gold pieces of cloth and they wrap them around their left arm or their leg. The other country is using either red or white and wrapping it around their arm and their leg. And that's how they know which side they're on. Just a simple little thing like that. You could have commonality in hats, in things, ribbons you're tying around your waist, around your arm, neckties. You think of it, and that's going to be what's going to be your common identifying thing, that it is visible 360 degrees and is fairly recognizable both in dark as well as in light. And if you can do that, then I think they've met the requirements of commonality of uniforms. Now, one thing that they did with their equipment, I think it's kind of unique. There was one invading force that had a big Roman Z, like in zebra, on their vehicles. There is no Z like that in Cyrillic, either in Ukrainian or the other language. And so that Z in Cyrillic looks like a 3. So, it's very uncommon to have that letter on a piece of their equipment. Well, maybe that's why they did it. Maybe it's so unique that, nobody would figure it out. I've heard different things about what it means. One group I've heard say it means Zapad, which means west. Going to the west. The other one I've heard is that it stands for Za Pobiedi, which is for victory. Although for me, I would probably say Dlia instead of Za. But anyhow, find something that you can identify your vehicles, your equipment, your people, so that you don't suffer friendly fire. The second one's going to be commonality and uniformity in your defensive systems. So I recommend you have a battle system, you have a long-range hunting system or sniping system, you have a small caliber, small game system, you have a shotgun, and I really like the Remington 870 because I can interchange the barrels. I can use a very long barrel for bird hunting, and I can use a very short barrel for defensive purposes. And then you want to have a sidearm. I'm not going to get into a debate because there's so many good people out there who can do it so much better than I can over which calibers or which platforms or anything else. All I want to tell you is agree on one. That way everybody has the same thing. If you're in a firefight and you run out of ammunition, you tell your buddy, hey, I need ammo, and he throws you a magazine, and he's firing a Mini 14 from Ruger, and you've got an AR-15, those magazines are not interchangeable. It's not going to do any good. So, you want to have something where you can support each other with ammunition, magazines, equipment, and everything else. It's also good for repair and maintenance purposes. If necessary, you can always scavenge one piece of equipment to get others back to operational status. You don't want to cannibalize too much. So in advance, if you have a commonality of weapon systems, you can always buy those things that are quite frequently prone to disrepair. So, you might want to think about getting extra extractors, ejectors, springs, things like that that can't have a tendency to go bad. And that way you're well prepared in advance. Make sure you have plenty of magazines for everybody with the same caliber system. Then you want to take a look at your radio systems and communications among you. I'm going to say there's 5 major types of radios, even though 2 of them fall within one category, and that's ham. You have the shortwave systems, which are, you're going to use a Yagi antenna, or you're going to use a pole, or a ground plane, or you're going to use a long wire or something like that. We're talking about tropospheric scatter here. You're talking long distance communications. To me, that's the true essence of ham. Then here recently we've had a proliferation of the UV5R by Baofeng and the Yaesu 6 and everything else in the VHF, UHF, SH, I guess it's just VHF, UHF ranges, where you're using repeaters. Now, once those repeaters go down, if there's a grid down situation, they become line of sight systems. So now we have to take a look at freak ranges. So you've got so if we use the VHF, UHF hams, we use GMRS, FRS, and CB radios, they don't all have commonality in frequency ranges and channels. So if each member of your group has one of those 4 radios, you aren't going to be talking to each other. So see if you can't come up with one type of radio system that you're going to use for your entire group. And that way you know that you can communicate with each other and have the same operating systems. The next thing I want to talk about is CEOIs. That's Communication Electronics Operating Instructions. There's 2 real good books I'm going to recommend, series that I'm going to recommend. A American has a series out called the Survivalist series, and there's a character in there, Sarge, from the 101st Airborne, and he creates CEOIs for this group in southern Florida. When to change call signs, when to change frequencies, when to call in, the reporting schedule, code words, what they mean and how to interpret those and how they change on a daily basis, all kinds of good stuff. Then he's also talking about what to do if you think you've been intercepted, or what to do if you think you've been direction found, DF'd. And so he's got a helicopter up top. That's we had those. That's the EH-60. EH is electronic helicopter, electronic warfare helicopter, quick fix, and we can DF you pretty quickly. So you can be direction found very quickly if we just happen to be on the freak you're on. And I'm going to say, you're not as smart as you think you are. So there's a lot of validity in that in his book. The other one I'd like to recommend is the Stomont series by Stephen Smith. And in there, I think it's either the first book or the second book, there's a character named Naomi. And she's a Native American, and her mother's Native American. So they're going across the plain. I see this picture of this house or this log cabin on the plain, and Naomi walks up to it, and that's where her mother lives. So Naomi just stands there and looks at the log cabin. And the mother comes out, and then the mother looks at Naomi, then she looks at the son, and after she looks at the son, she turns around and walks back into the house. And Naomi now knows that's their communications method of the mother telling Naomi, hey, I'm coming out here of my own free will. Nobody's forcing me to. The coast is clear. You can come on in. Okay? Now, if she had said, come on in, that probably would have meant something different. That probably would have meant, hey, there's duress. There's somebody in here who wants me to tell you to come on in. Be careful because they're going to shoot you if you come in. So, come up with those kinds of things, because now Naomi can go in safely knowing that there is no duress. Then she can tell her mother, hey, there's a guy with me who's going to be coming behind me. He's okay. And then she can tell him to come on in. So come up with those kinds of instructions on how you're going to communicate with each other. Another thing you want to consider is flashlight batteries and other kinds of batteries for things. You don't want to be the guy that has a 5D cell mag light while everybody else has USB rechargeable, or at least rechargeable AA's or AAA batteries. I prefer USB rechargeable flashlights. And the reason is because I have a small solar system that I can recharge my flashlights that way. Or I also have a hand crank radio flashlight that also has a USB port, a solar port up on top. And I can use that to charge batteries or to charge my USB rechargeable flashlights. Come up with how are you going to provide electronics and continuing electronics power to every member of your group. And the final one I want to stress is IFAK, and this is probably the most important of all of them. Your individual first aid kit, make sure you have the exact same individual first aid kit for every member of your party. Make sure it's packed the exact same way. Make sure everybody's trained in exactly how to use it. We wore them upside down on the left side of our load-bearing equipment. We knew where everything was. If our buddy's injured, we could open it, get what we needed, treat our buddy, and go on. If we needed to treat ourselves, we could open it, it would fall down into our hand, we could treat ourselves. So I hope that some of these ideas give you some things to think about on what you might want to do to improve the overall efficiency and effectiveness of your group, and seeing what you can do to have commonality and uniformity in your group. Remember, we're all in this together so we can come out the other side together. Please be kind, polite, and respectful to each other, because togetherness is the key. Take care. Bye-bye.